Hey guys, it's Iblis here, the Baron's Finest, getting you another deck profile in the series. This should be the first Vanguard deck profile. I've honestly been realizing I'm personally a little short on what to do, and I'm losing this deck soon, so I figured, hey, let's profile this just before I move it on. But this is a deck profile of Bermuda Triangle, specifically the 4 grade 3 Nemuel deck. I'm honestly a really big fan of this deck. This is the most fun I've had with Bermuda Triangle. I'm not really a big advocate of the clan. I've never really played with it until this point, but I do like it. I've actually had fun with it. I might actually consider rebuilding this at a later point after I finish my Blue Wave deck. But yeah, I was gonna profile this for you guys. Meant to do it sooner, just never got around to it. But now's as good a time as any, and if not better. So without further ado, we're gonna get started. And I will mention this build is not the 100% ideal build. There are some card choices that you could definitely make better. Some of these were due to limitations of what I had available to me, and some were due to budget options because I wasn't willing to drop a whole lot of money on this deck, as I knew the deck wasn't going to be staying with me, so part of it was because of that. But without further ado, we're going to go and get started. So for our starter, which we actually mainboard 4 copies of, and I just realized my phone cord is in the camera, we play 4 copies of Duo Lover Singer Darling. Darling is actually a really essential card, and it's where our other grade 3s went into extra copies of our starter. For people who don't know what this card does, or why there are 2 artworks of Darling, pretty much essentially most duos have a black art and a white art. And this being the black art, this being the white art, and and I tried to format it roughly that way. But anyways, Duo Lover Singer Darling has 2 skills. It has Forerunner like every other starter. The second skill is that you shove it into Soul, and if you have a Bermuda Triangle Vanguard, you pick a unit with Duo and its card name and return all units with that name from your rearguard to your hand. It's mainly there to trigger it triggers a bunch of your skills, and it's honestly a really important card. You need to be getting Darling off. Darling enables you early game, and it sometimes makes your plays late game. Darling is an absolutely essential card. You need to see Darling, plus Darling builds you Soul. For triggers, we play 4 crit. We do Duo Grampus turn Shannon. It's a duo crit. You need to see duos. You have a special counter boss in the deck. We also have Duo Pride Crown Madeira. Or Madeira. I don't quite know how to pronounce that. By the way, white art, black art. But 8 more crits. And then we also have the Duo Love Joker Chilium. This is actually a crit with a skill, and I have to actually put one of these up to me because I don't remember quite the skill off the top of my head. It's auto rearguard, counterboss 1, and put this unit to the top of your deck. When your other unit is returned from your hand to rearguard, or returned to your hand from rearguard, if you have a Vanguard with Duo in its card name, you may pay the cost. If you do, search your deck for up to 1 card with the same name as the unit returned to your hand, reveal it to your opponent, put it into your hand, and shuffle your deck. So it is a searcher, and not to mention it's a trigger that puts itself back in the deck. And again, it's a duo crit. And then last but not least, we play the 4 heals. So the deck triggers ratios are 12 crit, 4 heal. The reason why this deck isn't fond of playing draws is because the deck wants to self-filter itself on the G2 game to the point where you're going to be constantly hitting triggers anyways, so crits win you the game. The deck, in theory, draws through itself and filters itself enough to where you should have just nothing but trigger stacks, and then you just go off from there. You see through your deck just some other cards, which we'll talk about as we go through it. So that's it for the trigger ratios. That's it for the zeros and trigger ratios. For the ones, we have Duo Clear Parasol Kura. It's the original Soul Blast 2 Unflip 2 for Bermuda Triangle. I know they got a version of this, I believe is the promo for the Sneak in Academy of Divas, but this one's better because it is a duo, and duos matter. The next card is actually a change depending on how much you want to spend on this deck. I'm playing Image Master Kukuri. Kukuri should honestly be the Prism Duo PG, but those are a bit too much in the budget I was willing to spend on this deck. But Kukuri is not bad. You have some ways to grab it. It's not as flexible with the entire deck, because some units only grab you duos, and not to mention Nemuel has to be soul blasting a duo, so that is a problem. Not to mention, you can't counter blast this with certain units because it's not a duo. You can't search it with. It has some problems, but you can still grab it technically. There are units that kind of bypass the condition of, oh, this isn't a duo. As long as you have like a duo Vanguard or something like that, you can still make Kukuri work. So Kukuri is still fine to play as a to play if you want to, or if you just want to save the budget or to be more budget and save the money, or if you say want to make the G zone a bit better, which I'm pretty sure by that statement you guys should figure out that I'm not playing the money GR. But Kukuri still works. It's a fine PG. For the next card, we play 2 Duo Etoile Petite Piece. Pieces scale is CB1 when it's returned to your hand from rearguard. If you have a Vanguard with Duo in its name, you can pay the cost. If you do, draw a card. And if you can reveal 3 copies of Piece in your hand, you get to unflip the counterblast that you spent. So when you balance multiple Piece with cards like Darling, you'll be drawing multiple cards and then unflipping multiple counterblasts. Piece is not in a special counterblast, by the way, so it is something that can work with Kukuri if Kukuri does hit and damage. There is also this really important card which we got in Academy of Divas. 2 Duo Gorgeous Lady Kazuha. It's auto rear CB1 or a special CB1. You have the counterblast a duo. When attack hits a Vanguard that it boosted, you can pay the cost. If you do, pick a rear guard, bounce it to hand, search your deck for a unit of the if you do, choose one of your other duo rear guards, and then search your deck for a unit of the same name. It's pretty basic. It's honestly just something that duos have needed. It's a really great card, and we play essentially a grade 2 equivalent of that, which is how the deck gets going in its grade 2 game. 4 copies of Duo Mini Heart Roan, which is honestly, I am telling you right now, do not play this deck without Roan. Roan is so needed in Duo, especially this build. But for people who don't know what Roan does, Roan is Vanguard or Rearguard, a special counterblast 1, so counterblast a duo. When this unit's attack hits a Vanguard, if you have a Bermuda Triangle Vanguard, you may pay the cost. If you do, choose one of your other Bermuda Triangle Rearguards, return it to your hand, search your deck for the 1 card with the same name as that unit, reveal it to your opponent, put it into your hand, and shuffle your deck. So this is a unit that can grab you Kukuri. If you needed to grab Kukuri, it gets you pretty good on hit pressure early game. It still puts on hit pressure late game. Your opponent doesn't really want this to hit. So, Roan is pretty good. I like Roan. Roan. Roan enables this deck in a lot of ways too. Late game, you'll eventually just start pitching these because Roan will have a point where it's not gonna, or just the +1 isn't gonna be good enough, and you'll need the ability to plus multiple times. So Roan's on hit becomes less reliable, but Roan still gets you through the early game, and it's such a vital card. This is also your best ride, by the way. If you're going to be playing the grade 2 game in this deck, so just sit on the Roan. We also play the 4 copies of Duo Beloved Child of the Sea Palace Minamo. Minamo's skill is kind of weird, and you see a lot of people not like this card. CB1, when one of your units is returned to your hand from R, if you have a Duo Vanguard, you can pay the cost. It gets 5k. Then if you can reveal up to 3 units with the unit that you bounced, you get to unflip one or countercharge, because technically this card was printed in Academy of Divas with the countercharge mechanic. But as another note, if you don't want to run Minamo, you can run Sir Drika, the Duo 12k attacker. And some people like Spica in combination with that, so it's either a 2/2 or just for the 12k. Either or works, it's fine. I just like the Minamo, and plus Minamo was a lot more available to me, but you can definitely run either or. There are advantages to both. You can hit better numbers with Minamo compared to Sire. I know it's SYR. I don't remember the last part of the name, but Minamo does work in my opinion. I like Minamo. I would try the 12k though if I actually had it, but you work with what you can. We also play the 4 copies of Duo Lovely Double Vepr. Auto counterblast 1. When this unit is returned to your hand from R, if your Vanguard is Legion, you may pay the cost. If you do, choose one of your other units, search your deck for 1 card with the same name as that unit, reveal it to your opponent, put it into your hand, and shuffle your deck. Then you may choose the 3 cards with the same name as a unit on your Vanguard from your hand, reveal them. If you do, If you reveal 3 cards, countercharge 1. So it essentially also gives you free searches, and you will ideally have 3 copies of a unit on your Vanguard circle anyways, especially because of the grade 3, which we are finally now at. The most, like, where the deck actually shines. Duo Lovely Angel Nemuel. I'm going to read this card in out of order because I feel like the skills make a lot more sense with how this card actually works. It legions with Viper, so it's a 20k base legion. Act Vanguard once per turn. Soul Blast 1 card with Duo in its name. Choose one of your rear guards and return it to your hand. And it also has an auto Vanguard once per turn skill. Counterblast 2, not a special Counterblast 2, just a regular Counterblast 2. When your unit is returned to your hand from R, if this unit is Legion, you may pay the cost. If you do, search your deck for up to 2 cards with the same name as the unit returned to your hand, reveal them to your opponent, put them into your hand, shuffle your deck. Then you may choose up to 3 cards with the same name as a unit on your Vanguard from your hand, reveal them. If you reveal 3 cards, countercharge 2. So the idea behind this is that you want to be searching either 3 copies of the leader, or you want to say ride this Legion into Legion with Vepr, call either another Vepr or another Nemuel. I like calling more Nemuel, or calling another Nemuel. Soul Blast the 1, search the other Nemuel, use Nemuel's skill to counterblast 2, search 2 more Nemuels, reveal the 3 Nemuels, and then you just get to start unflipping. It filters your deck so hard. Nemuel is essentially a +2 at minimum every turn once you start filtering enough, and then you just really start like hitting trigger stacks. So Nemuel is pretty good in that department, and that does it for the main board. It is 50. Excuse me. This isn't Yu-Gi-Oh. This is Vanguard. So the basic ratios, I guess, for weird decks. I mean, in a sense, I feel like if you kind of know how to play around with like grade ratios of Capital or Riser, you can kind of goof around with this deck. And then for the G units, we're actually going to start from the back and go to the front. This is actually where I'd make the other change if I had them. We are playing 3 copies of Fluffy Ribbon Somni. This is the on-hit stride for Bermuda Triangle. When this unit attack hits a Vanguard, choose one of your rear guards, return it to your hand. Choose it to 1 card from your hand, call it your rear guard, and that unit gets +2k, or excuse me, +3k until end of turn. I would replace 2 of these with Olivia's if I owned Olivia's, but I do not own Olivia's, and I do not care to own Olivia's, because that is stupidly expensive for a GR, and I am also saying that as I don't want to buy next stages for Gear Chronicle, hence why you guys haven't seen a new gear list from me. But Somni is a really good budget option. If you want to invest more into the Nemuel, or into the Olivia's, you can. Honestly, the only 2 real swaps I'd make to make this deck better, provided you don't mind the price increase, would be for the Prism Duo PGs over Kukuri, and then 2 Olivia. You don't need 4 Olivia in this deck. You don't stride often enough to warrant for Olivia. If you're going for a 3rd stride every game, I feel like there's something wrong with how you're playing the deck. So that's just food for thought. 2 Legend of the Glass Shoe Amoris. When it's placed on Vanguard, choose up to 2 of your rear guards and return them to your hand. It enables some of your stuff. It's not a bad stride. I've never really gone into it. I've only gone into like the last 2 strides that I haven't shown you guys yet. But Amoris is pretty good. I would still play Amoris, and I think it's fine as a 2 of. 2 Madu. You're playing a Legion deck with very few grade 3s, so you want to be saying Madu. It's almost in the sense like similar logic to how I view Madu and Blue Flame Libs, where you not really want to be pitching your 3s because your 3s are so important for your plays. So even though you might need to stride, you want to just pick the 3 right back up, hence the Madu. And not to mention this deck doesn't play the stride fodder, which is an option, but I don't know what I'd really cut for stride fodder. Maybe the Kuras. If you want to go with Kukuri, I'd probably cut Kura, the Soul Blast 2 Unflip 2 in place of 2 stride fodder. But that's just an option that you'd have to play test with yourself. And then the last stride is Legendary Prism Duo Nectaria. It has 2 skills depending on whether or not you're on a Prism or a Duo VG. But because we're only playing with duos, we're only just going to read you guys the Duo skill. The Duo skill is if you have a heart card with Duo in its card name, Oh wait, excuse me. I should actually read you the entire skill because I just realized that it does matter. When it's unit attack, it's a Vanguard. Choose one of your rear guards and return it to your hand. And then the rest of the skill goes down to the duo part. If you have a heart card with duo and its card name, search your deck for a card with the same name as the unit returned with this effect. Reveal it to your opponent, put it into your hand, and shuffle your deck. So it's sort of like, so it's essentially you have 4 unhit strides and 3. It's sort of like another Somni. You can also, if you want to not say buy Olivia's but don't like the idea of triple Somni, you could drop 1 Somni for a second Nectaria, and that'd probably be just as fine. I just didn't really see a whole lot of a point to. I mean, Somni was cheap, and this is a little bit more irritating for me to find for some reason. I could not find Nectarias anywhere. But I figured that was just going to be like a pretty decent choice. And plus, honestly, like, ideally, again, it would be double Olivia. But, you know, you work with what you can get. So that is going to do it for this deck profile of Bermuda Triangle, actually. The deck doesn't... It takes a while to get used to it, I admit. It took me a while to actually start liking this deck. I wasn't too big of... I didn't really know how I felt about it at first, but I just kept goofing with it more and more. And I honestly just fell in love with the deck. It's a fun deck. Like, it's really just fun. I don't think it's that good, especially in going into CBD format. But it's a really cheap Bermuda list. So if you guys have been wanting to say play Bermuda Triangle but didn't know where to invest or like a decent build to go for, I'd recommend this build. I've never touched this claim before, but I picked up this build and I've had a lot of fun with it. I'd recommend giving this a go. And yeah, I would say I would do it. Thank you guys for the continued support. I'm gonna try and keep up with the once a video every day type of thing, at least for a while. I know I missed a day. I got really sick on Monday, so I'll probably be giving you guys a double upload on the 24th, I want to say. I think it should be the 24th unless I miss any more days for some reason. Otherwise, you guys will get another random double upload sometime in the week. Probably be doing some more Vanguard. Gonna try avoiding cheesing it with just Vanguard uploads. But that's gonna do it for now, guys, and until next time, peace.